Alrighty, Utah fans and college football fans in general. If you don't happen to be a Utah fan and you're still watching this channel, hey, appreciate you. Lots of great bowl games coming up this week, including full slates of great New Year's Six bowls and CFP bowls on Friday and Saturday. And that's, man, I'm looking forward to that. If you're a college football fan, this is the season. And I'll be right back after this with some talk about Utah versus Ohio State on the defensive side of the ball. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
And they'll run it, Jordan! Ty Jordan! See you later! Touchdown, Utah!
4 seconds, 3 seconds. Back to Van Dyke, deep three up. And good! It's good!
They just need this to finish their best beam rotation of the year. And look at Ford, says get on your feet.
Alrighty, it is time to chat a little bit about the defensive side of the ball for both Utah and Ohio State, kind of see how they compare. Now, if you didn't watch my previous video, I'll have a link to that down below. So you can check that out. I talk about the offense and what to expect, both from Ohio State and Utah there. And this one is all about the D. So both teams have decent defenses. Utah's ranked, I think it's 13th overall. And down the way just a little bit, okay, a fair amount, is Ohio State at 52nd. Now, that's not to say they're bad, because they're not. They're still only giving up 366.6 yards a game, while Utah's giving up 317.8 yards per game. So, pretty decent. Utah has definitely improved on both sides of the ball quite a bit. They've improved on offense a lot. They're not turning it over as much as they did at the beginning of the season. They had some fumble issues mostly in the beginning of the season, and so they've mostly cleaned that up. But on the defensive side of the ball, Utah had some games where they were edge contain was really crappy. And the some of the other things that were a little bit worrisome were not like in a BYU game. They might have had a couple of tackles for a loss, but it wasn't very good, And now we are one of the leaders in the country in creating tackles for loss. So, and we're also among the top in sacks. And so I think we have 42 sacks, 3.23 sacks per game. Ohio State's 3 sacks per game. So Utah has definitely, so before we get any further, part of that improvement is because we lost one of our starting defensive tackles who was a senior, big guy, Simi Moala. And he was, he's 6'5", 6'6", 320 pounds or so. Lost him for the season, early in the season, maybe in the 4th game, give or take. The some of the other players, I can't remember if we lost another one or not, but some of the other players weren't maybe playing quite up to Witt's Witt's expectations, and so we were already starting one freshman defensive end. And then we decided to start 2 other freshmen at the D tackle positions. So we've got 3 freshmen starting along the defensive front. And it definitely took them a little time to kind of adjust and adapt to not only starting, but just playing a lot of snaps and understanding the schemes and all that kind of thing. So we had a game against Oregon State where we definitely didn't play very good. Gave up, I can't remember how many yards rushing, but too many. Gave up, I think, 260 yards rushing, and they were averaging 244 per game or something. So not only did we give up a lot, but we gave up more than what they were averaging, and so that wasn't good, and it was a little bit disappointing to be sure. Of course, they were coming off a bye week, so they had schemed for us a little bit, but that's besides the point. The point is that we are playing as a team, playing much better defense right now, much better. I think we held Oregon in the Pac-12 championship game. Champs, yes, we are. I think we held them to 220 or 240 yards, something like that, total offense. So we are, doing much better on the run against the run. Oregon was averaging 230-ish yards a game rushing, and in both games that we played them, we held them below 100. So I think we held the first game was like 65 or 70 yards or something like that, and in the second game it was like 85 or 90 yards we held them to. So there's that. Now, so we've definitely improved defensively. The one thing that we haven't been doing is forcing a lot of turnovers. We've only forced 14 turnovers. We have done fantastic with getting to the quarterback, as I mentioned, and we've done fantastic overall in tackles for loss, which is great. We've got some playmakers on defense at all three levels. And even, some say we don't have an elite pass rusher, and some of our guys are young, like our starting defensive end on the right side, going against the left tackle. He's young, he's a freshman, but I think he's got the potential to be an elite pass rusher, and I sure as heck hope he acts like it this game. Tafua is I think definitely a above average pass rusher, and he's the defensive end on the other side. And both of them make a lot of great plays, along with our young defensive tackles. We do a lot of rotation, as Utah fans are aware of. We rotate our defensive line, especially our tackles, quite a bit. Our ends, not so much, but we do still rotate them to give them a little bit of a breather. So I'm looking forward to see how our front line does, our defensive line does against Ohio State's offensive line, because we definitely need to get pressure on C.J. Stroud. If C.J. has time, and granted, a lot of their passes are, quick passes, either like screen type passes, not necessarily screens, but, the pass out into the flat to a wide receiver who then makes somebody miss, has maybe another blocker or two down the field, and, ends up picking up 10, 15, 20 yards on a play like that. The other thing that they like to do is slants or quick outs. Both of those kind of things, have worked well for them in the games that I've watched them play. And so that's going to be tough to cover. Hopefully we've got schemes set up to, make it so they aren't as successful as they normally are in those kind of plays. And for the longer plays where it takes a little bit more time for the play to develop, hopefully we're getting pressure on CJ so that he's not standing there comfortably in the pocket, just ready to step into a throw and make a perfectly accurate throw. So that's what we need from the D-line as far as passing is concerned, is hands up to try to block the passes, pressure on the QB. And it'll be interesting to see if we can do that. I'm hopeful that we can, at least, hopefully in enough plays to make it such that Ohio State doesn't score the amount of points that they average typically, which is about 45 points per game. We can hold them to something along the lines that Michigan held them to. That would be great. Or even Oregon. Oregon held them to 28 points. Michigan held them to 27. I'd take either one because I think we can outscore them at that point. Now, on the running side for us, we have a decent run defense as well, giving up about 122.5 yards per game. Now, Ohio State isn't as reliant upon the run as they are on the pass because they have three elite receivers and a fantastic quarterback. So Now here's the little asterisk next to that. I've heard, initially I was hearing that Wilson and Olave, they're two receivers that have declared, I believe they've declared, but everybody's expecting them to go. Also, everybody's expecting them to go first round. So both of those guys, initially I was hearing that they were sitting out the bowl game. Just a day or maybe about 2 or 3 days ago, I watched a couple of different videos where they were, both sources were saying that that Olave has been practicing. Wilson, it sounds like he's definitely sitting out, but I also think that that they aren't necessarily wanting to tip their hand completely. So, but it sounds like, all else being equal, not maybe they're, regardless of whether they're trying to hide something or not, at least right now it sounds like Wilson won't be playing. So there'll probably still be 2 elite wide receivers playing for them, which would be Olave and Smith-Njigba. And Smith-Njigba led the team in receiving yards with like 1,259 or something along those lines. So, and then even behind those guys, less experienced receivers are there, but still very talented. So, I'm not worried about if I was an Ohio State fan, I don't think I'd necessarily be worried about, Wilson sitting out or anything like that, because, you've got speed and talent behind them. So it's that's the thing that worries me most, although they do have a very good running back, number 32, Travion, and I can't remember his first name, and I don't want to bore you by looking it up, but number 32, watch out for him. I can't remember his last name. I think it's Travion is his first name. So keep an eye out for him, and hopefully we can contain him. If we can contain him and minimize the damage on the passing side, then I think we should be okay. Now that said, Ohio State got, I believe it was 394 passing yards against Michigan when they lost 42-27 to them. And of course, I just told you the outcome. Michigan won 42-27. So it's possible to give up that kind of yardage and still win and minimize the score, just depending on, I think Michigan held Ohio State, stopped them on like some fourth downs. And so I think that's what happened a couple of times, if I remember correctly. They were Ohio State was somewhat deep into Michigan's territory, and Michigan, stopped them on the fourth down, which is why they were able to get so many yards, but not as many scores. So on Ohio State's side of the ball on defense, you've got Ohio State is ranked, like I said, 52. They give up 366.6 yards a game. They actually do a little bit better than Utah on the rushing defense, only giving up 119.7 versus 122.5 for Utah. Very close, obviously, but still. And passing yards, they give up a fair bit more than Utah. They give up 246.9 yards a game. So it'll be interesting to see if we try to run a lot, or if we try to see what we can do on the passing side, or have a balanced attack, which I always prefer. Now, there is some reference to this, and that is a couple of reference points actually with regard to Utah. When Utah played UCLA, I believe UCLA was ranked or others receiving votes kind of thing. And UCLA had the number 1 rushing defense in the conference, if I remember correctly. They were holding teams to, like 90 yards a game or something like that on the ground, 94 yards maybe, something like that. And Utah rushed for, I can't remember, 260 plus yards that game. And, Oregon is the other reference point in both games. Oregon was also holding teams to right around 100 yards per game in conference. And the first game we got 208 yards. In the second game, I think we had, in the championship game, I think we had 180-ish, give or take, yards for that game on the ground. So, sometimes you think that, okay, well, the team is weaker on defense at passing, at covering passing, defending the pass. And so a lot of times coaches take the mindset that they want to attack that weakness, whereas twice, actually 3 times, same team twice, we attacked their strength, and that played out well for us. Of course, Coach Whittingham likes to run the ball because it can control the clock a little bit and maybe minimize the other team's number of possessions, along with just wearing them down so that later in the game we have a little bit more flexibility and can go on longer drives and that type of thing. I think we had a very long drive in the game against Oregon toward the end. I think it was during the season. And I know we did in the championship game where we burned off a whole bunch of time and ended up just kneeling at the end. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. We have a very capable passing attack. We don't have necessarily a lot of receivers who are super fast and extra elite like Ohio State does, but we do have, obviously we have the great tight ends, and we do have a few quite capable receivers. So hopefully we can, like I say, have a balanced attack with both attacking their weakness, which apparently is the passing defense, but also hopefully we can rush for quite a few more yards than what they typically give up. So time will tell, but other than that, our defense has created, Utah's defense has created 14 turnovers, 5 fumbles, and 9 interceptions, while Ohio State's has created 19 with 7 fumbles and 12 interceptions. So they're a little bit better at turnovers, creating them, and hopefully we can turn the tables on them in this game. Now, other than that, points per game, very similar. We average 20.6 points per game that we give up, and Ohio State's 20.9. So it's statistically speaking, the matchup overall is pretty close, quite close on defense. Yards per game and points per game for offense, if you watched my other video, is not quite as close because they average 551 yards a game on offense, and we average 434 or so yards per game. We also averaged 35 and change points per game, and they averaged 45 points per game. Now, the thing about averages and statistics is that there's the adage that says there's lies, there's lies, there's darn lies, and there's statistics. And that's true because, first of all, statistics are a measure of the past, and anything can happen in the upcoming game, whether you've played the same team 100 times or the same teams. If you've just played each other 100 times, none of the past statistics have any bearing, although it does, try to relate that there are some tendencies and such like that. But if we had, the only team we have in common right now for this season is Oregon. And so that's nice. But it was the second game for Ohio State. And Ohio State got 600 and something yards on them, 611 or 616 yards against Oregon, if I remember correctly. And so of course we played Oregon twice recently, and we're a much better team now than we were then, and I think Ohio State's a better team now than they were then, and I don't think for a minute that Oregon would beat Ohio State again at this point. So statistics is nice to take a look at and see how you've done, but Ohio State got their statistics playing for the most part a bunch of Big Ten teams, and we got our statistics playing a bunch of Pac-12 teams. And, who knows which ones are going to end up being more valid. And, it'll be a fun game on Saturday. And I can only hope that we will have the better statistical game, at least in one category, the final score. So here's to seeing how that's going to play out. And Saturday, early evening, we'll know. Now I'm going to try to have one or two more videos during the week leading up to it. And hopefully, if things go well, I'll be able to get an old friend or two on here that Utah fans may recognize, depending on their age. And both of them have played in the NFL for a number of years, and so some of you might recognize them from there if you don't recognize them as a Utah fan or whatever. But it should be a fun week. Lots of college bowl games, lots of great games. I'm going to be glued to my TV at least on Friday and Saturday and watching on a few of the other occasions. And so I hope you guys have a fantastic week enjoying the college football mania. And we'll see you next time in the next video. Episode 20 is out, and go Utes!